Welcome back to a slice of news where I cut you off a slice of news. The only thing worse than an ice shooting is an ice shooting where they don't even shoot the right person. That's exactly what happened when ICE agents in Maine shot a man after he began to flee an attempted stop, who later died of his injuries. Unsurprisingly, Homeland Security tried to initially claim that they got the right man. They've been at that location serving a final order of removal at the last known address of an illegal alien. So they said that's who they got. And it wasn't until later that they admitted that, in fact, that was not who they got. This was a completely unrelated man, an innocent man. The department tried to claim that the shooting occurred out of a concern for public safety, therefore absolving the ICE agent that shot him for the shooting and subsequent death of this man, despite the fact at the current moment there is no evidence to support this claim that the man who was shot and killed presented any risk to the public or to the agents themselves. What seems far more likely is the agents were expecting a Latino man, they found one, and feeling that they all looked the same, figured he must be the guy they were looking for. And when he tried to run, they shot him. And of course, like every ICE related fatality, the department is quick to spin it that actually they were completely justified and didn't do anything wrong by killing this person. Because while this man may not have been their intended target, he was who they were there to target. ICE is becoming an elimination force, removing all they feel do not have a place in this country. So to them, one less non white in this country is probably as good as any other. If their goal is to remove non whites from this country, they achieved their goal, even if it wasn't the specific one they were there to get. Well, obviously, they won't come out and say it. It's hard not to feel that ICE is perfectly okay with shooting the wrong guy, as long as they're fairly confident they'll get away with it. And given the track record of previous ICE shootings, such as the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy back in January, they would seem to have very good reason to expect that they will. An innocent man is dead simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, essentially. And they will hand wave it away as saying, well, if he was innocent, why did he resist in the first place? And we were just doing our job. It's not our fault that he happened to look like the guy we were looking for. Because in many ways, this is what ICE is. They like to say that they are the immigration enforcement agency, and they're simply trying to keep the country safe from illegals and people who mean harm for this country. But the reality is, in practice, they're just shoot first, ask questions later, like they're a posse in the Old West. And if they accidentally shoot some innocent people in the process of getting their man, that's acceptable. But that shouldn't be acceptable to us, the American people, the ones whose tax money goes towards funding them. This shooting even more shows just how much oversight ICE need, and also maybe why they are so hesitant to have any at all. Those on the right have seemingly always argued that any sort of guardrails or constraints of any kind keep them from effectively doing their jobs. And they should be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, in the name of public safety and the national good. They hate being held back by the so-called red tape, but we've seen now that when you remove that red tape, what you end up is red in the streets because there's innocent people being shot and murdered with seeming impunity. Comply or die should not be the way we run any law enforcement organization in this country. But these days, that could practically be ICE's unofficial motto. What we're seeing is a lack of accountability, and they're using that lack of accountability to essentially do what they wish and kill who they want to. All because, well, it might have been the person we were looking for, and even if it wasn't, he resisted and we felt threatened and we had no choice. They claim to want to stop terror, but they're the ones doing the terrorizing. ICE creates an environment of fear and apprehension that causes even legally immigrated people afraid, because now they know that if ICE finds them and suspects them of being illegal, they could be murdered in the streets for simply the crime of looking illegal. They used to say that if you look like you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But if you are at risk simply for looking like who you are, you will constantly have to live, even when you genuinely have nothing to hide. It's truly depressing how after every ICE shooting, it feels like not only are we unsurprised that it happened again, but we can't help but wonder, when's the next one? How long is it going to be before the headlines tell us another shooting has occurred? And how will ICE attempt to seem blameless this time. The citizens of this country should not have to live in a cloud of fear just because they don't happen to look white. Although, given what ICE did to Renee Good and Alex Preddy, even looking white doesn't always save you from being on the wrong end of an ICE agent's gun. We're at a point where supporting ICE is essentially being in favor of extrajudicial killing, and that's a hard position to defend, I would assume. Or at the very least, it should be, because far too many in this country seem perfectly fine with this, as long as ICE is getting rid of the right kind of people, which are the people that don't look like them and who they do not want as a part of their country. One less undesirable in their country or on this earth is fine by them. Cruelty isn't a consequence of what ICE does, it is the point itself. Perhaps far too many of them grew up in a time where movies depicted a white man with a gun as the ultimate form of justice and the law, and his killings were always justified, and now have the mistaken belief that that should translate into the real world. And as long as they keep supporting ICE and happily funding ICE and voting for politicians that keep giving them money and support, ICE will continue this rampage of murder without any real consequence. After every ICE shooting, it seems we say, this isn't normal. We shouldn't allow this to become the new normal. But it feels like it may be too late for that. This is normal now. ICE shooting innocent people for the crime of looking illegal or resisting them has become completely normal. But while it has sadly become normal, we should not conflate that with being acceptable. It may have sadly become normal, but it will never be acceptable to kill people in the street for sometimes no crime at all, simply because you were part of a police force that feels empowered to do so. If it was a criminal street gang doing what they do, it would just be another crime statistic. But because they do it with the full backing of the US government, somehow now they are completely in the right. Murder doesn't become okay because we're wearing a badge when you did it. ICE's extrajudicial killings have become normal because far too many in this country want that to be normal. They see it as one more step towards taking back their country from those they see as undesirable and having ruined their country simply by existing in it. But that's not the America the founders of this country would have wanted, and it shouldn't be the country that any of the people in this country should want. Law and order is unquestionably important, but when you start killing people in the name of public safety, often purely because of what they look like, it ceases to be about the law and about order and about maintaining social control against those who are the unlike. And that alone could not be any more un-American. More than a nation of laws, we are a nation of justice. And ICE's fatal actions could not be farther from justice. Because at a certain point it becomes the targeted extermination of a certain group and class of people. Unless we forget, we fought an entire world war against an enemy who held that very idea as one of their core values. We should not want to become a nation of racial exterminators and see ourselves become more like the vile villains that we fought against in a war 80 years ago. We cannot allow ourselves to sell our national soul, our core values of justice and kindness away in the name of public safety and out of fear. We are not a nation of killers, and we must not allow ourselves to become one. And as a result, we must hold those who do accountable for it. Immigration enforcement does not have to come at the end of a discharged gun. But far too often recently, that's exactly what it's been. The United States is a nation of immigrants, whether certain people like it or not. Our diversity has always been our strength. But I seem to view every immigrant as a potential danger, potential risk to national security and their own lives. So better to shoot them and hope they got the right one. And even if they didn't, better that they didn't risk it. ICE has shown that they do not protect this nation from the danger. They are the danger. And those they come looking for should have reason to be afraid, even if they've done nothing wrong, or even if they're actually already American citizens. Terror is their goal, and they achieve it very well. The innocent man ICE shot and killed in Maine should not have had to die, but sadly just became the latest victim of ICE's continued campaign of terror upon the American people. And as always, it seems it's only a question of who will be next, and how soon will it happen. I greatly anticipate the day that minorities can walk down the streets without fear of being shot simply for how they look, or if they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time and got mistaken for someone else. But as long as armed masked men roam the streets with what is essentially a license to kill, that future can never come to pass. But I'm confident that ICE's days of murdering in the streets are numbered. But while it came too late for this man and so many others, I am confident justice, real justice, will win out in the end. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off, another Slice of News. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find it. Thank you.